Continuing from the previous episode 1235. With Xiaoyan refining the ground dragon blood crystal, more than a few months passed in an instant, and the Soul Eater and Nether Soul Sun, also during this period of time, carefully negotiated the issue of robbing the Chidu Divine Soul Cup, and patiently waiting for Xiaoyan to go out. Gulagulu. In the blood pool at this time, the Earth Dragon blood crystals have all been refined and merged, and the original blood pool with a depth of tens of meters and a clear and transparent blood pool is now extremely crimson like lava, even a bubbles kept emerging, and it was unknown whether it was because the temperature was too high or the energy was too intense. This dragon's blood is really not easy. Xiaoyan was standing quietly beside the blood pond at this time. Just relying on his perception, he also knew that in the blood pond at this time, such a huge energy might be able to kill a person in an instant. One-star fighting immortal powerhouse. But fortunately, Xiaoyan's current strength has broken through the one-star fighting immortal. Devouring the fighting spirit to improve strength is basically the consensus in the world, but the degree of improvement is related to the quality of the fighting spirit, and the time is quite short, and it does not take too much time. A Do Xian powerhouse can only do this once, which also limits the idea of some outlaws using Do spirit to break through many times. Fight! Xiaoyan swallowed a trace of saliva, and then moved his footsteps gently, directly facing the blood pool. CCC. Just as the front foot touched the water surface, a whiff of white smoke immediately diffused from the surface of the skin above Xiaoyan's ankle. It hurts. Even with Xiaoyan's fearless personality, he couldn't help but let out a slight grin. Moreover, not only the unusual temperature in this blood pool, but even the white mist that emerged, made Xiaoyan faintly uneasy. Xiaoyan looked down and saw that his front feet, which had already submerged in the blood pool, had just been stained with some blood, when bursts of white mist emerged. It's so terrifying. Xiaoyan couldn't help but temporarily retracted his front feet, and then said with an ugly expression, "I don't care." With a little mental preparation, Xiaoyan directly ignored the 3721, and jumped into the blood pool suddenly. Ah! Xiaoyan was also bold, jumped directly into the blood pool, and then completely submerged his head and nose into the blood pool. The purpose of this was naturally to allow the dragon blood to better nourish his body. After all, the blood pool at this time has been fused with the blood essence of the ground dragon blood crystal. These red liquids are the best materials for tempering and training. This kind of body forging is tantamount to the exchange of blood on the Do-Chi continent, and even some body forging techniques are more powerful. In any case, this is also an earth dragon with dragon bloodline, and its strength has reached the level of fighting immortals. No matter how tough Xiaoyan was, the fiery red blood pool water did not give Xiaoyan any face. It burned Xiaoyan's body hotly, and even a trace of fiery red liquid slowly wrapped around Xiaoyan's skin. The tyrannical impact hit every inch of Xiaoyan's skin, and at the same time, a scream echoed in the blood pool. Xiaoyan was submerged in this fiery red blood pool. His head was protected by the power of the soul to prevent it from being corroded by this terrifying dragon blood, and every time he screamed, the water would surface. Several huge blisters appeared, and the blisters also came from the roaring sound. Come again. Xiaoyan continued to endure the inhuman torture, but said slowly, because he knew that if he couldn't get past the simplest level, he would be living up to the expectations of the Golden Dragon King. As time passed, Xiaoyan used the power of his soul to discover that the original baize skin on his surface had turned red, and the corner of his mouth smiled slightly. It seems that the screams of the past few days are not in vain. After all, this dragon blood has penetrated into Xiaoyan's skin, giving Xiaoyan's skin the tenacity of the dragon's blood, so as to swallow the dragon's blood and even the dragon ** behind him. The 9 transformation practice laid the foundation. The next moment, Xiaoyan didn't care about anything else. He let out a roar, and the dazzling soul power was directly mobilized. Crash! Following Xiaoyan's actions, the fiery red dragon blood in the tens of meters of blood pools was slowly dispersed by Xiaoyan's dazzling soul power. Earth dragon blood crystals are inherently precious. At the beginning, I was afraid that my body would not be able to withstand such a tyrannical dragon blood, so I diluted them with blood pool water. Now, it's time to devour all the dragon's blood to soften the skin, and the cultivation of the dragon god has changed. Xiaoyan's voice just fell, and somewhere in the surrounding fiery red liquid, the concentration instantly became extremely high, and it was faint. Suddenly, the blood pool was divided into one red and one white. The white water was originally clear and transparent, but the red color was formed by Xiao Yan using the power of his soul to isolate the original water of the blood pool and turned it into the blood of the Earth Dragon blood crystal. "Come on," Xiao Yan murmured, and then the huge soul force went directly to the red liquid of the dragon blood crystal. Boom, boom, boom. As soon as the soul force touched the red liquid, the extremely high concentration of dragon blood was like crazy, and it burst into Xiao Yan's body. Gula Gulu. Surrounded by such a tyrannical dragon blood, the Do core and Do soul in Xiao Yan's body let out an extremely angry roar, as if realizing that Xiao Yan was in danger, and prepared to use his instinct to use his strength to protect Xiao Yan. "Don't worry, it's just a little bit painful, but it's not difficult for me." Xiao Yan gritted his teeth and said word by word, but the pupils changed when the dragon blood surrounded his body and radiated the power to destroy everything. Full of blood. The dragon blood didn't care whether Xiao Yan could bear it or not, it just came to Xiao Yan, and it suddenly turned into a stream of nectar and slowly flowed over Xiao Yan's body. Damn! At this time, Xiao Yan's appearance was quite strange. He was immersed in the clear and transparent blood pool, but around his body, the dragon blood with the highest concentration of ground dragon blood was wrapped tightly. A terrifying force that was enough to blow Xiao Yan's body up slowly radiated from the dragon's blood. "Merge me in." At this time, Xiao Yan's eyes were red, like a madman, controlling the power of his soul, and ignoring the pain on his body, he directly gave the dragon's blood forcibly. "Into your own body." Wang buzzing. Seeing Xiao Yan's desperate actions, his body suddenly made a fragile sound, as if it would explode at any time. Although the dragon blood was tyrannical, it was under the power of Xiao Yan's fairyland soul. Also slowly calmed down, and then this seemingly invincible dragon blood was slowly injected into his body by Xiao Yan. Regardless, the madness and forcible fusion of dragon blood also brought a lot of sequelae to Xiao Yan. However, at this time, Xiao Yan's body was repairing at an extremely slow speed, and he was slowly absorbing and refining dragon blood. And as the arm-sized dragon blood was absorbed by Xiao Yan's body, on Xiao Yan's body, there was actually a flash of golden color that disappeared. The golden color that flashed away was exactly the same as the golden color on the Golden Dragon King. It's as if forever and ever, indestructible. Even Xiao Yan didn't realize that after absorbing the Earth Dragon blood crystal, Xiao Yan's body strength was also skyrocketing at a geometric speed. So much that there was a trace of something similar to dragon scales on the original Beizi's skin, but it was just a tender bud, and it was not born. 5 more today. The monthly and recommended tickets are almost 202,000. The recommendation for monthly tickets on Saturdays, and those for recommended tickets on weekends. Everyone, come on. End of this chapter. Continuing from the previous episode 1236. When time passes, it is a year. During this year, Xiao Yan stayed quietly in the blood pool. One was to absorb the refining fighting spirit, and the other was to slowly absorb the dragon's blood, so as to improve his physical strength, thus creating the 9 transformations of the dragon god. Lay the foundation for practice. This guy is really calm. It's been a year. On the first floor, the place where Ghost Soul was imprisoned, Ghost Soul couldn't help but said. During this year, he and the Soul Eater were both standing in the first layer sealed land. Although they also visited Xiao Yan in the blood pool during the period, they did not bother too much when they saw Xiao Yan's appearance. The level of retreat, if disturbed by outsiders, it is easy to hurt the source. During this year, Ghost Soul and Soul Eater discussed a lot of things. Among them, Ghost Soul's strength, which had just been promoted to the 6-star fighting fairy, was also under the guidance of Soul Eater Master. This matter can't be rushed. The time required to devour the fighting soul is short, but his physical strength is a bit low. Although he has the Earth Dragon blood crystal, the time required will naturally not be short, not to mention the need to cultivate Dragon God 9 after strengthening his body. Change. The Lord of Soul Eaters said with a free and easy smile, although he desperately wanted to recover to the peak and find the Lord of Li's soul for revenge, but it has been so long, and he is not in a hurry. Dragon God 9 changes. Sir Xiao Yan's strength and luck are very good, otherwise this Dragon God will change, but even the Lord The ghost's son seemed to remember something, but he stopped abruptly when he said it. Humph! The Soul Eater snorted coldly when he heard the words. When he was young, he once challenged the Dragon Clan powerhouses. Although he was not the Golden Dragon King, he was also the overlord of the Dragon Clan. He also practiced the 9 transformations of the Dragon God. It was the use of many means of the Soul Eater talisman, and it was also defeated, which undoubtedly made the Lord of Soul Eater always haunted. Okay, stop talking nonsense, take the time to control what I taught you, and when we leave, you can also break through the seal on your own. After the Master of Soul Eater finished, the ghostly body hidden under the seal is also just around the corner. On the 5th floor of Icefire Island, in the Blood Pool. Gulagulu. At this time, Xiao Yan was filled with an extremely tyrannical aura, as if he could deal with the powerhouses of the same level with just one punch and one kick from his body. The last drop. In the next moment, Xiao Yan, whose eyes were locked, slowly relaxed, and there was a rather rich drop of fiery red dragon blood on his chest. Crash! As soon as Xiao Yan finished speaking, a frantic suction force emanated from his body, directly sucking the dragon's blood away. After the dragon's blood was inhaled by Xiao Yan's body, it was a perfect fusion within a moment. At this point, the blood of the Earth Dragon in the Earth Dragon blood crystal poured into Xiao Yan's body without a trace. Bang bang bang! After doing all this, Xiao Yan got up slightly and left the blood pond, and then looking at his skin that had become swollen due to absorbing the power of the Earth Dragon's blood crystal, he couldn't help but release 2 punches at will. There was a screeching noise in the air. Xiao Yan couldn't help but be overjoyed that he was able to reach such a level just by virtue of his physical strength. You must know that when Xiao Yan was in the Doqi continent, although he had tempered his physical strength many times, he was not completely tempered this time. At this time, although Xiao Yan's physical strength could not be compared with the Dragon Clan, it was still among the human powerhouses. The physical strength of light is probably enough to be compared with some powerhouses in the late 2-star fighting immortal stage. Next, it's time to practice the 9 transformations of the Dragon God. Xiao Yan threw a few punches in satisfaction and said slightly, "The 9 transformations of the Dragon God is the supreme martial art fighting skill of the Dragon Clan. When the 9 transformations are used together, the power directly compels the demigods." At this time, as Xiao Yan absorbed the dragon's blood, the information that recorded the 9 transformations of the Dragon God also happened. Made some subtle changes. A demigod? Xiao Yan couldn't help frowning when he noticed this slight change. Although the Master of Soul Eater didn't tell Xiao Yan vaguely knew that in this great world, the god of fighting was probably also the existence of the phoenix and water chestnut, and anything that could be related to the word, god of fighting, would be the subject of respected by countless human beings. The 9 transformations of the Dragon God is a total of 9 transformations. Only dragons or beasts with dragon blood can train practitioners. Xiao Yan carefully sensed the cultivation method. There seems to be something else here? Just after Xiao Yan read the news, he suddenly found that something was hidden in the bottom corner. If it is a human, you must quench your body with dragon blood before you can cultivate. Several very tiny fonts slowly appeared in the bottom corner. If it wasn't for Xiao Yan's tyrannical soul power, I'm afraid he would never have discovered it. The 9 transformations of the Dragon God. How does it make me feel that it was not created by the strong dragon race? Could it be that it was created by us humans? Xiao Yan was plagued with questions. Forget it. Let's talk about the first one of the 9 transformations after training. At the next moment, Xiao Yan didn't dare to hesitate too much. After all, it took a lot of time to devour the fighting spirit and absorb the dragon's blood. Boom! The body has just started to operate according to the route recorded by the 9 changes, and then a touch of coercion like a dragon will slowly diffuse out. And the source of this permeation turned out to be Xiao Yan. To be precise, it is above Xiao Yan's body. It seems that dragon blood tempering is really useful. Seeing that there was no obstacle, the first transformation of the Dragon God was easily activated, and Xiao Yan's eyes became more and more hot. The Dragon Clan is a term for physical strength and destruction in the vast world, and the 9 transformations of the Dragon God can be said to be their root. So Xiao Yan is quite looking forward to the first transformation of the Dragon God 9 transformations. The first transformation of the Dragon God 9 transformations. Not long after San became familiar with the operation circuit of the Dragon God 9 transformations, Xiao Yan made a deep voice, and then a voice like a dragon's roar resounded through the sky. At the same time, following Xiao Yan's activating the 9 transformations of the dragon god, a strange power appeared on Xiao Yan's body. That power does not have any color, nor any form. Instead, it is somewhat like the power of the earth dragon blood crystal that has just refined and tempered its own body. And with the display of the first transformation of the 9 transformations of the dragon god, Xiao Yan's physical strength actually skyrocketed. Tisk tisk. This first transformation of the dragon god was originally made by the tempering of the dragon's blood to greatly improve the physical strength and defense. Hey, at this time, I am afraid that I will not lose to any 2-star fighting immortals in melee combat just by virtue of the augmentation of the first transformation of the dragon god. Even a powerhouse with a complete 2-star fighting immortal. A rare smile appeared on the corner of Xiao Yan's mouth. It was only now that Xiao Yan, who had learned the first transformation of the dragon god 9 transformations, realized the tyranny of the dragon god 9 transformations. Xiao Yan didn't dare to imagine that the increase brought about by the first change was so tyrannical. If the 9 changes were to happen at the same time, I'm afraid it would directly force the peak of this great thousand world. Updated December 14, 1718. End of this chapter. Continuing from the previous episode 1237. This guy, he doesn't take time too seriously. Time unknowingly, after 6 months passed, the ghostly soul child who was not in a hurry also hurried. After all, there is still half a year, and it is time to reach the ratio of Dongzhou. In addition to going from Icefire Island to Dongzhou to participate in the ratio of Dongzhou, it takes a lot of time along the way. If Xiao Yan refuses to leave the customs, if the ratio of Dongzhou is wrong, I am afraid that their plan will be in vain. What's the hurry? Seeing this, Soul Eater couldn't help shouting angrily. But Gloomy Soul looked at the master of Soul Eater and snorted lightly, but there was no sound. Xiao Yan, this guy is measured. And he won't fall even if he devours the fighting soul and cultivates the 9 transformations of the dragon god. I have a hunch that he will be out soon, said the Lord of Soul Eater. After the two of them finished speaking, they calmed down. The blood pool on the 5th floor of Ice and Fire Island. Hoo, it's almost time to change the dragon god number 1 to control. Xiao Yan slowly got up and said quite happily. Half a year ago, I just practiced the first transformation of the dragon god. The first transformation of the dragon god can indeed increase the defense and physical strength, but the duration is limited and there are some drawbacks that Xiao Yan did not find, but fortunately, Xiao Yan did not find it during the nearly half a year. After groping day and night, it was almost the same as turning dragon god number 1 into control. It's time to go too. Xiao Yan got up and tidied up and opened his mouth slightly, but was startled by a movement. The source of this movement was Xiao Yan. Because Xiao Yan's physical strength was quite tyrannical at this time, he did not notice that if he was not careful, a trace of strength would overflow and go out of the blood pool, thus disturbing others. Biology. Who broke into my territory? A roar resounded suddenly, but it only made Xiao Yan's scalp tingle. Obviously, based on the source of the sound, this creature is extremely powerful. Isn't it? This soul barrier is about to be broken? And the movement just now disturbed the guardians of the 5th floor. After such a roar, the soul power that originally protected Xiao Yan's hidden figure also dissipated a lot in an instant. There are faint signs of disappearance. And here is the 5th floor of Icefire Island. Xiao Yan doesn't have to think about it to know that the guardians here are definitely not what he can handle now. There is movement. I'll pick him up. He noticed that the soul force protecting Xiao Yan was slowly creeping, and the ghostly soul disappeared immediately. What a human being! What kind of magic trick did you use to infiltrate my territory? The guardian of the 5th floor hid in the dark and roared at Xiao Yan. This guy is so strong. With the spirit barrier that was about to disappear, Xiao Yan did not retreat, but his eyes only became solemn. The guy in front of him, even if his strength broke through the early stage of the 2-star Do Xian, it would be extremely difficult to face. Turn it into my food. The guardian on the 5th floor was covered in yellow sand, making it impossible to tell what he looked like. He directly opened his *** mouth and devoured it towards Xiao Yan. Fight! And when Xiao Yan saw this, he didn't sit still. The first transformation of the dragon god was directly displayed, and even the undead ghost fighting spirit was directly attached to his body. The two tyrannical forces were enough not to let Xiao go. Yan was killed in seconds. Sorry, I'm late. An apology slowly appeared, and before the attack of the guardians on the 5th floor arrived, Xiao Yan's figure flickered and disappeared. Damn it. The guardian on the 5th floor obviously didn't know the situation on the 1st floor, so he could only complain helplessly. The undying nether sparrow fighting soul, the first transformation of the dragon god, the strength of the 2-star fighting immortal in the early stage. With so many means, even if you don't use Holy Flame, you can probably deal with many difficult enemies. It seems that this trip to Ice and Fire Island has yielded a lot. The Master of Soul Eaters saw the two of them appear, and instantly discovered the abnormality on Xiao Yan's body, and smiled at Xiao Yan. Master, the prize is over. Xiao Yan watched the crisis resolved, and then slowly put away the fighting spirit, and the first change of the dragon god was taken back. However, Xiao Yan was secretly delighted. With the addition of the first change of the dragon god, Xiao Yan was afraid that it would be possible for Xiao Yan to truly be able to fight beyond the ranks. Okay, things are pretty much dealt with now, we should go too. The Lord of Soul Eater glanced at the seal that imprisoned the ghost son, and said slowly. Master, are you not saving Senior Ghost Soul? Xiao Yan was a little puzzled when he heard this. After all, Xiao Yan could see it. Ghost Soul is loyal to the Master of Soul Eater, and he is even more powerful at the level of 6-star fighting immortals. With such a tyrannical subordinate, the Master of Soul Eater should not die. It's too simple for you to think. Anything whose strength exceeds the strength of the 4-star fighting immortals is recorded in the hands of their respective powers in the 7 realms, and the power of the 6-star fighting immortals like Ghost Soul's son is not to mention the tyrannical power of the imprisoned seal, and there are many strong people who are secretly vigilant and supervising. Once there is any situation with the seal here, those powerhouses who are hidden in the dark will come as soon as possible. I want to save him and go with me, but those strong men are too difficult for me now. The Lord of Soul Eater shook his head and said, Sir Xiao Yan is interested, but don't worry, after waiting for the Master and you to leave, I will use the power given to me by the Master to break through the seal, so as to return to Soul-Devouring Realm and plan this time. Ghost Soul said with a smile. However, this guy Xiao Yan still more or less touched Gloomy Soul. After all, he cared so much about people not long after we met. Well, let's go first. The Lord of Soul Eater nodded solemnly, because he knew that his origin was damaged, and only that thing could be restored, and the next thing, the ratio of East Continent and 4 continents compared. I am afraid it will not be simple. After all, this Yanhushan is the top territory under Li Hanyu. There are many talents here, and it is not easy to win the championship. Respectfully send the Master. Ghost Soul's soul power slowly dissipated, and then he watched Xiao Yan and Soul Eater's 2 figures slowly dissipating. And with the fall of this scene, the entire Ice and Fire Island also returned to quiet. Puff. I finally left Icefire Island. The guardians in Icefire Island are too strong. Xiao Yan exited Icefire Island and was directly teleported to the entrance of the altar in Shawu village. He said slowly, Hey, boy, what is this? You have to remember that you are a descendant of the Xiao clan. Although the spirit beasts in Icefire Island are powerful, they are not qualified to guard the gate of the Xiao clan. After leaving Icefire Island, the Soul Eater said with a smile. The next time, there are still half a year, let's go to the East Continent first, I hope time is too late. Xiao Yan nodded to the Lord of Soul Eater, then put it in the collection ring, staring into the distance and said. Xiao Yan was also a little helpless. He had wasted a year and a half in the blood pool. Although he had gained a lot, if he missed the opportunity to participate in the competition of Dongzhou, it would be tantamount to losing sesame seeds and watermelons. Just as Xiao Yan slowly paced away from Shawu village a few miles away, there was a shocking scene in the Ice and Fire Island. In half a day, the Master and the others should have also left here. After so many years, it's time to leave here. And on the 1st floor of Icefire Island, a touch of terrifying oppression that shook the world slowly radiated out. End of this chapter. Continuing from the previous episode 1238. Boom! Ice and Fire Island, which was originally very calm, became extremely restless at this time. With this sudden turmoil, the other 9-story guardians and imprisoned villains in Icefire Island all felt that something was wrong. The source of this fluctuation. Could it be the deepest part? A question slowly came out from the prison of wicked people on the third floor of Icefire Island. Earth Monkey, what the asterisk are you doing? Just when the Earth Monkey had doubts in his heart, the guardian of the third floor directly left his guardian space and came in front of him, shouting loudly. Blue-eyed illusory scale flood dragon, you should take a good look at the first and second floors. Those two guys are much more dangerous to us, especially the guy on the first floor. As for this fluctuation, I'm afraid he sent it. Ha ha ha. Even if the Earth Ape was restrained, it would let out a roar and laughter that shook the sky. Bastard. The blue-eyed phantom scale Zhao heard the words, did not stop, twisted his huge body, and went directly below. These soul beasts have some relationship with the master of the soul, so they are willing to guard the villains here, but the villains on the first and second floors are paid special attention by other people. If anything goes wrong, I am afraid they can't even eat and walk around. Golden Feather Bitchandy, what happened? The blue-eyed phantom scale Zhao came into the space on the second floor and directly roared and asked. The guy on the first floor seems to be about to break through the seal. Jin Yu Bitchandy fluttered her gorgeous wings and floated in its sea of flowers, staring at the space on the lower floor, and said slightly uneasy. Silver-winged flying dragon, what happened? After a while, the guardians of the second and third floors directly broke through the guard space they were in and came to the place where the ghosts were imprisoned on the first floor. This guy, I don't know why he broke free of the seal. That seal was set up by the Lord of Li Sol himself, and it is enough to seal the 6-star fighting immortal powerhouse. How could this guy? The silver-winged flying dragon slowly instigated the huge silver-winged, said floating in the void. On the first floor at this time, because the seal that imprisoned the ghost son had been freed by him, everyone appeared directly in the guardian space on the first floor. Originally, the silver-winged flying dragon felt that no matter how tyrannical the ghost son was, he would not be able to break through the seal, but where did he expect that the seal would become vulnerable in front of the ghost son, and before the combination, humans entered the 10th and 9th layers. I am afraid that the reason why this ghost son can break through the seal is inseparable from those guys. The guardian space on the first floor is a huge mountain standing in the clouds, and in the center of the mountain, the body of the ghost appears slightly. As for the other three guardians, they stand outside the void of the mountain. Are you all here? Ghost Soul took a slight step so that the three guardians could find him. The three guardians saw that the ghost was full of strange ghosts all over his body. He looked human, with short hair and angular facial features, quite similar to a handsome young man, but the most abrupt one. It is the clothes on the ghost son's body, and there are skeletons emerging one by one. At first glance, those skeletons are not inlaid, they seem to be innate. This beast must not be allowed to escape, otherwise, the three of us will not be able to explain to the Lord of the Soul. The silver-winged flying dragon said solemnly. The silver-winged flying dragon itself has the blood of the dragon family, and its concentration is higher than that of the blood crystal of the earth dragon, and its strength has reached the level of a human 5-star fighting immortal, but even so, this ghostly soul makes him feel a chill. Hold it down with your hands, I have already sent a signal, as long as the powerhouse from Li Hunyu arrives, this guy can't escape death. The blue-eyed phantom scale Zhao shouted loudly. Illusory scale snake waterfall. The enchanting snake scales of the blue-eyed phantom scale Zhao suddenly burst out, forming a rain of extremely sharp scales in front of it, and then shot directly at the ghostly soul. Don't underestimate this attack. As a snake monster, the blue-eyed illusory scale flood dragon itself is not comparable to Medusa's lineage, but it is also a leader among snake soul beasts, and it is even more powerful than its 4-star fighting fairy. This kind of terrifying attack, I am afraid that the average 4-star fighting immortal will fall sadly. Tianyu Silk Mesh. Jinyu Bichandi is different from the two of them. She focuses on defense and imprisonment. The wings behind her body are slowly instigated, and then a powerful force of confinement turns into a sky full of light. The net, covering the ghostly soul, if it is covered by this thing, I am afraid that the power in the body will be imprisoned again. Flame Dragon Breath. The silver-winged flying dragon is different from the two of them. It directly opens its dragon's mouth, and groups of silver flames turn into dragon breath and shoot at the ghostly soul. It seems that the simple dragon breath is the most tyrannical of the three attacks. Because of this guy's tyrannical strength, the dragon breath that he unleashes has vaguely reached the power of Sheng Yanzuo. It's just a group of ants. If I was the 5-star fighting immortal when I was imprisoned, I would not be able to deal with you. But now the three of you together are not my opponent. Facing the three people's attacks that were like pressing the bottom of the box, the ghost even there is no fear, nor any defense, as if he wants to take it easily. Gloomy soul, you are too arrogant. The three guardians couldn't help being furious when they noticed that Soul showed such disdainful ignorance. The three guardians of them are the most outstanding existences in the Ice and Fire Island, but in front of the ghostly soul, they are like playing a family. Let me show you guys what real power is. After the ghostly soul finished speaking, a dazzling light suddenly appeared in the palm of his hand, and in this light, if it carried a power that devoured all souls, the most powerful breath. What is that? Although the three guardians' attacks were tyrannical, it would obviously take some time to attack the ghostly soul. It seems like a talisman? The green-eyed phantom scaled Jiao Yao, as a snake, made her aware of the secret in an instant. This is a soul-devouring talisman? Looking at the three tyrannical attacks that were enough to obliterate any 5-star fighting immortals, they slowly dissipated and came to the ghostly soul, but there was no movement, and the next moment was given to the blood talisman. Devoured. Under that mysterious blood talisman, the beast pupil of the silver-winged flying dragon couldn't help shrinking tightly. Bingo! The torment you have suffered over the years, let's get some back from you first. Watching the Soul Eater talisman swallow the three attacks with ease, then a touch of tyrannical power that combines the three attacks will slowly feed back to the ghost child's body. Ghost soul, annihilated. A roar slowly penetrated the entire inside and outside of Icefire Island, and then an earth-shattering energy beam suddenly exploded from the Guardian's space on the first floor of Icefire Island. Is this the coercion of a powerhouse above the 5-star fighting immortals? Upon realizing this incomparable, terrifying and destructive power, some villains and guardians on Icefire Island couldn't help trembling. Not good. Rewind. Looking at the attack that was enough to obliterate the three of them, the silver-winged dragon incited its silver-winged wings and fled directly towards the periphery of Icefire Island. It's just a group of ants. If it wasn't for the fear of the powerhouses in Lee Soul territory coming, my ghost will kill you today. After the ghost said, the blood-colored soul-devouring talisman was slowly put away, and then the figure disappeared instantly, leaving only the tyrannical destructive power was slowly left on the first floor. Boom! The destruction beam, which gathered the three silver-winged flying dragons and the power of the Soul Eater talisman, exploded directly after the ghost left the Ice and Fire Island without being bound. And with such terrifying destructive power, the first floor of Ice and Fire Island was wiped out, and there were even large and small damages. A splendid beam of light suddenly emerged directly from the first floor of Ice and Fire Island, and then ran through the entire piece of heaven and earth. That senior ghost is really terrifying. At this time, Xiao Yan, who had walked dozens of miles away from Icefire Island, turned back and saw that at the altar of Shawu village, a brilliant beam of destructive energy suddenly penetrated through the whole world. Accompanied by such terrifying energy fluctuations, there was a sound of mourning slowly emerging. Xiao Yan asked himself, if he was under such a terrifying attack, he was afraid that he would not be able to escape the fall if he used his whole body. Let's go, since the ghost has left, it's time for us to start the next stop. The Lord of Soul Eater easily noticed the fluctuation, and then said to Xiao Yan. After speaking, Xiao Yan's speed skyrocketed, facing Dong Continent to go. End of this chapter. Continuing from the previous episode 1239. There are thousands of continents under Lee Soul territory, and the territory of each continent is as huge as the Xuanling continent. Such a vast territory has just established the hegemony of the three domains of Lee Soul territory. Master, why don't we step in the air or take a flying soul beast? Then we must go faster and we must walk. Xiao Yan and the Master of Soul Eater slowly walked towards the next stop. Without the guidance of the Hawkeye team, Xiao Yan and the Master of Soul Eater were also not very sensitive to the route, and seemed to have lost their bearings. If you want to die, step into the air. The Soul Eater rolled his eyes at Xiao Yan angrily. The ghost world is no different than the human world. In the ghost world, countless great powers have the power of forbidden space set up in their respective territories, so if you want to walk in the air, it is tantamount to being discovered at the first time, or even sometimes, they will be attacked. So stepping in the air is nothing more than an act of death. As for the flying soul beast, where are you going to find it now? The next moment, the Master of Soul Eater said. Hearing the words of the Master of Soul Eater, Xiao Yan couldn't help being dumbfounded. Obviously, this seems to be the only way now. So I still walk honestly. After all, I vaguely remember that there is a rather huge city not far from Shawu village, and there is a space teleportation formation in that city. At our speed, we will be able to arrive in a few days, but why is this route a bit wrong? Our top priority now is to go to the city first, and use the space teleportation formation to go to Dongzhou, which will undoubtedly save a lot of time. Said Soul Eater. Lost? Xiao Yan shook his head helplessly. Obviously, after the Soul Eater said so much, it boiled down to being lost. However, I have to say that the spiritual energy of heaven and earth in this ghost world is a spooky ghost. In addition, Xiao Yan has always been carrying the ancient ruler of strange fire, and now walking has actually increased Xiao Yan by a small amount, which can be considered as above as another workout. It seems that I have to find out if there are any businessmen or passers-by nearby, and I don't know what the ratio of this east continent will be. As he walked, Xiao Yan opened his mouth slightly. Obviously, this east continent is one of the 4 continents in the underworld. Presumably it's going to be a place of great talent. Don't worry, this genius in eastern continent, although tyrannical, wants to have confidence in you. Soul Eater grinned. Be careful, someone is coming. You may look and try to ask for directions. The next moment, the Soul Eater said slowly, and then went into hiding. Hearing the Master of Soul Eater speak, Xiao Yan slowly released his soul power and tried to find out. With his perception, Xiao Yan also saw the scenes that happened not far away from him. Shush. Hey, little lady, you are thin-skinned and tender. If my brothers hurt you because of their ignorance, I'm afraid it will make your sister sad. On a lowest slope, there was a team of horses and horses, no more than 4 people. One of the men with a livid face was the first to speak. This head is full of tyrannical aura. In terms of strength, it is much more tyrannical than Xiao Yan. Deacon Yi, why are you talking nonsense with this guy? Just arrest her, otherwise the 3rd young master is still fighting with them. The strength of their Rain sect should not be underestimated, so as to avoid more troubles. The remaining subordinates couldn't help but speak. Go, go, what do you know? The leader dismounted and walked towards the injured woman. Asshole, if you are wrong to me, my sister and father will definitely not let you go. The injured woman held a rather exquisite dagger in her hand, and her beautiful eyes kept staring at the man who approached her and said, He. Deacon Yi, who was the leader of the 4, approached the injured woman directly, and then there was a very shameless smile on his face, as if he was planning something dirty. Bang bang! The next moment, the man just came to the injured woman and sank slightly, but the short sword in the injured woman's hand suddenly rose slightly, like a bird with a startled bow. The sharp dagger light was an instant, and a conspicuous scar was drawn on the man's face, and a trace of blood slowly flowed out. Stinky girls, don't eat and drink fine for toasting. Tear off her clothes for me and throw them to feed the soul beasts. Deacon Yi was so surprised by the injured woman that he immediately lost other interest and roared directly. Good. When the other 3 subordinates heard the words, their eyes were filled with a trace of evil, and they dismounted directly to face the injured woman. If their boss doesn't do it, then they have a chance. Anyway, this girl is going to die sooner or later, so it's better for the 3 of them to be cheaper. Damn, the food the caravan ate yesterday was poisoned by them, and now the grudge in his body is not obeying. Seeing the 3 men coming towards her with malicious intentions, the injured woman couldn't help but move her eyebrows. 4 big men bully a weak woman, and they are not afraid of being laughed at by others. Just when the 3 men came to the injured woman and were about to succeed, a huge heavy ruler was projected directly in front of the injured woman. The speed was extremely fast, stirring up a lot of Lois, perfectly sanctioning the actions of the 3 men. Who? Get out! Aware of this sudden voice, Deacon Yi couldn't help but swept his eyes around, but he didn't find Xiao Yan. This is a detoxification pill. The next moment, Xiao Yan's figure, like a ghost, slowly appeared in front of the injured woman, and then a small exquisite bottle was thrown directly in front of the injured woman, but Xiao Yan's body was in black. Under the cover of the robe, it is difficult to detect the true face. Bang bang bang! Instantly picked up the ancient ruler of different fire, and then the aura in his body condensed on it, and suddenly swept away at the 3 people who were close at hand in front of him. Peefed! All of this happened so fast that the three men didn't have any response before they were swept away by Xiao Yan and swept to the ground. There was even an extremely hot aura above the ancient ruler of different fire, which made these three guys unable to get up for a while. "Boy, don't mind your own business, otherwise you won't know how you died," Deacon Yi said with a gloomy expression as he watched Xiao Yan defeat his three subordinates so easily. Although the strength of his three subordinates is only 1-star Do Xian level, their combat effectiveness should not be underestimated, but who would have thought that the three 1-star Do Xian subordinates could not even resist a single move from the guy in front of him. Seeing the injustice on the road, draw your sword to help. Seeing that the three men were defeated in an instant, Xiao Yan put away the ancient ruler of Yuo Heng and said. However, Xiao Yan saw the injustice on the road. He drew his sword to help. He was obviously lost, so he was ready to help. After all, through the power of his soul, Xiao Yan realized that there was some secret in the injured woman. If he wanted to rescue her by himself, it should be simple to ask the root matter. Your Excellency has achieved such strength at such a young age. Why don't you join our Q Jai for a big plan? The man thought for a while and said slightly. Obviously, the strength shown by Xiao Yan is not what he can handle. Maybe it is the young master who came out of a certain big family to experience such a scene. Be careful, this guy is a powerhouse in the middle stage of the 2-star Do Xian. The injured woman devoured the detoxification pill directly, and then said something to Xiao Yan. Stop talking nonsense, let's do it. I just want to try a powerhouse in the middle stage of the 2-star Do Xian. Xiao Yan ignored this guy and spoke directly, and a majestic fighting spirit emerged. Originally, I have always been dismissive of the routine of heroes saving beauty, but after thinking about it, this is the only good thing. Really fragrant. I'm sorry, it's this routine again. Extradition, end of this chapter.